The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Monday, October 28th, 2024. My name is Sam Seder. This is the five-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, the final week as the campaigns go into the final argument mode. Trump holds fascist rally in New York City attacking Jews, Palestinians, black people, trans, and Latinos. And Harris, meanwhile, more or less argues, I'm not Trump. Republicans hold leads in Texas and Nebraska for the biggest chances for the Democratic Senate. Bezos pulls the Washington Post presidential endorsement in a quid pro quo deal with Donald Trump. Israel strikes air defenses around Iranian energy sites, continues its assault on northern Gaza. Meanwhile, this as U.S. and its allies warn Israel that it's causing the collapse of the West Bank economy.
Yeah, Smotrich is doing that on purpose.
And Smotrich said that's a
compliment.
That's not a bug. That's a feature. Philadelphia DA Larry Krasner sues Elon Musk over his $1 million giveaway. The Fifth Circuit, remember that court? We talk about it almost every time we talk about courts now. Rules to invalidate ballots that are postmarked before but arrive after Election Day. And North Dakota may end its property taxes, Matt. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us. Emma Vigland.
Hello.
It's Monday.
Yes, it is.
I'm going to say something that's fairly controversial, apparently. 7 days until the election. It's really 7 days and, 8 hours or something to that effect. No, 12 hours. Some people say 8 days. And that's why I headlined it by saying the final week.
Working on it at the Large Hadron Collider. Exactly how many days it is to election.
I don't know this reference.
There was stuff that happened last week that you're not aware of. There was a big controversy over how many days out are we from the election.
Oh, understood.
How many days would you say we are out?
Well, I think we talked about this for the sake of just maybe motivating people in the same way that this is the closest election in history is motivating people, I think. We can just say round down so that people don't miss it. Right, if they're listening to this later on.
Better to get there early than late.
Especially with that Fifth Circuit judge making that determination. I don't know how that holds up, but
we'll see if that how that holds. I mean, the issue is more, I think, like Texas. There are 18 states off the top of my head, maybe including Washington, D.C., where there is a grace period. I think Texas has a 1 day grace period in terms of ballots that you could postmark a ballot. I mean, problems happening with the mail. It happens occasionally. You postmark a ballot and it gets postmarked a day or two before and doesn't show up until a day later. Texas has a 1 day grace period. Other states have longer ones. Fifth Circuit, obviously, it's going to apply to Texas and states in that circuit. Texas could be the most relevant of all of these. We're going to get into the rally at Madison Square Garden in a moment. It's been almost 80 years now, maybe a little bit more, since there was an American First rally in Madison Square Garden.
I think it's like nearly 85 years. Yeah.
And in that rally, you can see them all wear their Nazi uniforms, at least on the dais, as it were.
In front of a giant George Washington.
There was a story I was reading about a Jewish guy from Queens who snuck in there and stormed the stage. He got the heck beat out of him. Wasn't quite that explicit this time around. They didn't wear their uniforms, but
hats instead.
We will get to it. It's stunning. There was a comedian. You wouldn't know it to look at him. I mean, he was at a podium. He was giving a speech, and the right. I honestly, I'm sort of blown away by it. Like it seems like
how brazen it is.
Yeah, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
Let's get to this. Jake Tapper had J.D. Vance on his program, and the argument was, they had gone through the whole list of 12, 15 top Trump officials who were like, he's fascist, he's incompetent, he's an idiot, he's psycho, shouldn't work for him.
Hitler, says he wishes he has Hitler's generals, that kind of thing.
The whole thing. And J.D. Vance had said, well, all those people are fired. And then, Jake Tapper said, well, yes, except for Pence, who's not supporting him. And then 4 or 5 of the other people I mentioned also not fired. Milley was not fired, whatnot. And Vance sort of gish-gallops through that. And then we're getting back to the thing of Donald Trump saying this. He said it on TV. This is, it's not like somebody reported this. It's not like it's the recording of him coming off the bus with that, who was that guy? The
Bush, Billy Bush.
Yeah, Billy Bush. Yeah. I mean, he's just said it in an interview. But J.D. Vance is trying to pretend that's not true.
Donald Trump and what he says.
Yes. And
Donald Trump says.
And you'd much rather talk about what Donald Trump allegedly said than what Donald Trump did in office.
I'm talking about
what he did in office, Jake.
What he said publicly.
1.5%
he wants to use
inflation.
The military to go after the enemy within, which is the American people.
He did not say that, Jake.
The enemy
he
within?
said that he was going to send the military after the American people. Show me the quote where he said
he was going to. He said the enemy within.
He said far left lunatics. He's talking about
the
people
Pelosi's
rioting
and Schiff.
He's talking about people rioting after the election. I think
the Pelosi's were rioting after the election.
He said
Adam Schiff was rioting after the election.
You're using two separate phrases. He said about using the military that far left lunatics, people who riot in the wake of an election, people who burn down American cities in the summer of 2020.
Pause it for a second.
Yes.
Now, do you recall all of the rioting that took place after the last election? There was a riot. There was one actually in Washington, D.C.
Kind of infamous.
In the Capitol. Not necessarily, we don't know the politics of every single one, and I'm not sure what the threshold is to be a far left lunatic. But most of them were not far left lunatics. I would say 99.99999% were not far left lunatics. But also, even if you were a far left lunatic, and he didn't say the word rioting, incidentally, Trump didn't. I don't remember when we could when we saw a riot by anybody on the left in the wake of an election. But you're also not supposed to send the military in. There's something called posse comitatus. But it's amazing how these guys will focus in on the most sort of pedantic point to avoid what the actual point of this was.
Well, that's the point, in that Tapper doesn't bring this part up but because he says, is Pelosi a far left lunatic? Is Schiff? Because that's who Trump has been referring to. But the point it doesn't matter if they are deemed far left lunatics. The point is that they're still Americans, and you're not supposed to send the military on Americans.
I continue.
Wake of an election. People who burned down American cities in the summer of 2020, yes, we should have a federal law enforcement
This is what
response.
he said to Joe Rogan on Friday. The enemy within that he wants the military to go after.
No, this is
the enemy
thing.
within a bigger problem than Kim Jong-un.
The second part.
We have people that are really bad people that I really think want to make this country unsuccessful. That's who the enemy within.
And did he say that he wants to use the military against those people?
He wants to use the military to go after the enemy within.
Here's the game that you're playing. He said that
playing a game.
No. Can I answer the question, please? He said that he wanted to use the military to go after far left lunatics who are rioting, and he also called them the enemy within. He separately, in a totally different context, in a totally different conversation, said that Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff were threats to this country.
Were the enemy within.
We're
the enemy within. He said they were the enemy within.
So every time he uses the exact same phrase, we assume that he uses...
I don't know. I don't throw around the term of enemy within to talk about using the military against destroying American people.
And you're asking his vice president, but you won't let me answer the question. I'm telling you that Donald Trump has said, and I agree with him, that we should use the U.S. military to go after
Americans.
People who riot, who burn down our cities.
And this was what John Kelly was.
This
was what John Kelly was alarmed by. The idea of using the U.S. military to go after Americans. That's what he said.
Donald Trump never said Americans writ large. You keep on putting words in his mouth and my
Are they or
mouth.
are they not Americans?
Far left people who commit acts of violence, who riot. And
now you're doing a very narrow definition of what he said, which is not what he said. That's not what he said. But let me ask you. Let me ask you the bigger point.
He did say that, Jake. He did. He said that he wanted to use the U.S. military. Let me clarify.
To go after far left lunatics, yes. And then he also added
people who were rioting and looting.
And
he never said.
He added Schiff.
And
then he added the Pelosi's.
And
then he added people that don't want the country to succeed.
He said that Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi he used in a separate context, in a separate conversation. And what you're doing is you're smashing two totally different conversations.
Okay, I'm sorry. You're smashing the phrase that he used in two separate interviews to say that he's referring to the same people when he used the exact same phrase in one context and then said the exact same phrase in another, to imply that he wanted to go after the enemy from within. And he admitted it there. He admitted it. I agree. We should send the military on far left lunatics. That should be the headline. That should be the headline. That means that's a very broad statement because, I mean, Tapper does allude to it. In their eyes, it could constitute Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff, who are mainstream Democrats and far from far left lunatics. Well, what does that mean for people like us? What does that mean for pro-Palestine demonstrators on the street? What does it mean for, again, if there is another, and likely will be, heinous act of police brutality, and people go out to protest that? What does that mean for those people?
I think, just to be fair here, what you guys are doing are missing, some like key nuances with the whole enemy within thing. Mm-hmm. Perhaps you're familiar with the Thai language. Are you?
I'm familiar with Thai food.
Okay, well, this is the problem. Because if you were familiar with the Thai language, you would know that the word cow actually can mean rice. It can mean to enter. It can mean to get along, to suit, to match. This is a similar dynamic.
Are you trying to say that
it's a homonym? When you say enemy within, it depends on where you put the emphasis on the vowels as to what it's referring to.
Even if you use the term in the same interview to describe both things, like in the Maria Bartiromo interview that we're sort of talking about.
Yeah, we have to look out for the cadence.
It's the same dynamic.
This is like Baudrillard over here.
Just be careful about how you say it, like kin cow, because it could mean like, oh, I want to eat some rice, or something like I want to get along with somebody or match with somebody.
I mean, I don't know why you have to go across the world to find an example. We have homonyms in the English language: stare and stare. It could mean the enemy from within or the enemy from within.
It has to do with the word actually is a different word. It's not pronounced the exact same. It's how you use the you don't get it.
Okay. I'm not familiar with the Thai language.
Jake doesn't get it either. He obviously doesn't speak Thai at all. So
Good point.
That's where we're at. I can't look. We're going to be talking a lot about like the state of the race over the next 6, 7, 8 days, however many days before the election. We're going to be talking a lot about how many days are left in the election. That's going to be controversial as well. But it's very difficult to really know at this point. There are a lot of numbers that are floating around out there. People take different takes. We will probably talk about, our sense of these things. But there cannot be a universe where you want your vice president, your vice presidential nominee, 7 or 8 days before an election to be arguing with, Jake Tapper, who, to the extent that he has any ideological leanings, tend to be center right, I would guess. Arguing in this way about who is the enemy within that your presidential nominee has referenced, and why are all these former generals that worked for him, or these generals who formerly worked for him, saying that he's fascist?
Yeah.
Like that to me seems like when you're sitting down at convention time and you're going to roll out your vice presidential nominee, you're not going, this is where we are today. But a week before the election, what we want to be is on CNN arguing that our candidate is not a fascist and not an authoritarian who's going to roll the military out.
But you know what?
There's no way you're saying that.
But you know what the scary reality of the situation that we're in is that Trump polls higher than JD Vance in terms of favorability. And polls higher than a lot of other Republicans as well. There's a certain segment of the population that's basically decided that they like this, or they want someone who's a strongman who can come in and fix everything. And that's just something we have to reckon with. Where have we failed when we talk about the importance of democracy? We failed in many ways, for that democracy to make it so that people feel the effects of it, and so they choose to treasure it, right? There's an anti-democratic strain in around half the country at this point, and they see Trump go out there and call up the enemy from within, and they go, well, he's on my side, and they're my enemy. And that's where we're at.
We'll see. We've talked about Kamala Harris's, sort of like campaign strategy over the past, I guess, really been about 2 months now, which was increasingly to reach out to disaffected Republicans. And I don't want to characterize your perspective, but I've been increasingly skeptical about its efficacy, to be fair. Aside from me having issues with the reformation of the Cheneys in any fashion, and aside from me having the issues of what kind of constituency are you constructing for the day after you win the election. But putting that aside, just specifically looking at, does the strategy work? I have to say that I have been skeptical, but I was walking to work today. I ran into my neighbor. Every time anybody sees me, the only thing they ask me is, who's going to win the race? And I go, I don't know. I think for me at this point, I'm thinking Trump is either going to win by a little, or Harris is going to win by a number that's actually bigger than 2020. Now, that's not a huge accomplishment in the sense that, there was very little margin in about 4 or 5 states that made it possible for Biden to get this larger electoral win. But I think that she could actually win just a little bit bigger, which would be significantly bigger, which would be significantly large in this current era. And she said her parents, they're Republicans. They voted for Trump in 2016. They voted for Trump in 2020. They live in South Carolina. They are not voting for him this time basically around January 6th. They're Nikki Haley fans. Now, you keep saying about these Nikki Haley voters.
I don't like it in terms of the substance. I just am not convinced that it's not going to have the effect that the campaign wants.
That,
double negative.
That,
you know what I mean?
But that anecdote is exactly what the Harris campaign is banking on. And we'll see.
Yep. We'll see.
We shall see.
Because if it doesn't work, it's one of the worst things, crimes against democracy in this country.
100%.
If this doesn't work, I mean,
but it's like,
we're the enemy from within.
Yes.
We are the enemy from within.
Well, I am going to use as evidence that I'm not, that a lot of people have said that we're not on the left. And that's going to be my defense when the military comes.
And I like crypto now.
Hey, everybody. We'll get to this thing, but we should also just say, I mean, like, the democracy thing aside for a moment, narrowly tailored, it also really is about a functioning government. And I guess that could roll into democracy. But we've seen what Trump appointed judges do. Like literally every day, we're talking about this Fifth Circuit. You know, I'm not in isolation. I'm not worried about Donald Trump, but Donald Trump is there and he gives carte blanche to the Republican Party, and the vanguard of which is the worst parts of the Republican Party. And that means a complete dismantling of the administrative state. That means another 200 judges and probably the Supreme Court gone for like another couple of decades. And it won't even be a benevolent non-democracy. It'll just be like, honestly, just like corporations will have unfettered ability to privatize their profits and socialize the costs. And when we say socialize the costs, what we mean is we as a society, usually the least fortunate and the most politically marginalized end up being first in line for this stuff. But it means, more poisoned water, more poisoned air, more discrimination, less housing, less worker protections, less support for wages, less ability to organize. It could go on and on. And I mean, that's their agenda. That's their spoken plan. That is literally their plan. Project 2020 got a lot of hype.
2025.
2025. But if you read into that thing, I've never seen it. That's why I didn't know the number. If you read into that thing, it really is a blueprint to do what they've wanted to do for a long time. But this is they've been very, very specific. They're going about this in a very methodical way. And there is absolutely zero reason to believe that they won't just completely run this when Trump is there. We keep talking about plan is better than no plan. So,
right.
Dark Soul, Sam leaving the left to start selling courses on how to be a better metrosexual. That is definitely on the list of things that I'm looking into.
The metrosexual masterclass.
In the meantime, I'm like trying to write note to self. Make sure you get there first for that masterclass teaching. Your support makes this show possible. You can become a member at jointhemajorityreport.com. As you can see, we have no advertising today. It's our members that make this show possible. Without your support, we are subject to things like advertising boycotts that were promoted by listeners of other shows who are mad about our positions, let's say, on Israel and Gaza. It could be that this time or last time it was, Mike Cernovich or whatnot. Our members make it possible for us to weather stormy times. You can become a member at jointhemajorityreport.com. And if I ever do a master class in how to dress like a metrosexual, I will give a discount to members at that time. So,
good to know.
Yep. Let's go into the Dango Bengal writes this. It's a long IM. Hi, Sam and Emma. I confronted my mom today about the Kill Tony hate rally at Madison Square Garden. Imagine my heartbreak when I had to confront the reality that my mother does not care about me or my younger brother, who is the golden child of our family. She doesn't care about the fears I have about the racism my brother, father, and I will face as three of us are Colombian and Puerto Rican. She doesn't care about the violence, the racism directed at us. She doesn't care the three of them could be deported. My paternal grandfather was from Puerto Rico, was World War II, escaped was World War II. My paternal grandmother is from Colombia. She escaped a genocide she wasn't even aware was happening. They welcomed my mother into their family as if she was their daughter. My mother's ancestors fled to the U.S. and fought back until their last breath against the British during the Great Potato Genocide. It was not just a famine. Potato famine was was part of a long ongoing attempt at ethnic cleansing of my ancestors because they were Irish and Gaelic. And here she is telling grand offspring of a World War II vet or genocide survivor, descendant of a clan of survivors, that my mom doesn't care about her family being dehumanized. My fears that my brother would be marched in footstep with neo-Nazis who would use it as a scapegoat or would be one of the first to be thrown behind bars. She doesn't care about my fears. My father would lose his citizenship despite being born in this country, despite his father being a natural-born citizen. Yeah, that's horrible. Yeah. I'm sorry to hear about that. Let's play some of these clips. So there was a rally. Do we know how many speakers in total there were there?
I'm not sure, but I just will say as a pretty diehard Rangers and Knicks fan, shame on James Dolan, but not surprising that he essentially gave out Madison Square Garden for free for a Nazi rally. Like,
wait, for free?
I mean, I think that there was maybe I'm making that up. I'm not sure if there was a fee or not, but he is a Trump supporter, so I wouldn't be shocked. So maybe not for free. I could have seen that incorrectly. But yeah, I mean, it's meant to evoke that actual Nazi rally from
Bund rally,
1939.
It really does. I mean, there's no other real answer for this, right? I mean, like, what was the idea of doing this rally? Can we put up pictures? Let's just put up pictures of the original one. This is the original Bund rally that took place in the Madison Square Garden in 1939. People forget things were getting a little bit fashy over here too.
Yeah.
It was around this time that there was an attempt to, maybe stage a coup against FDR and the New Deal. And here are these images. I mean, pick this one. This is the one where the from the Post down here, or do the when Nazis took Manhattan, the code switch first. Yes, pop that up. Oh, okay, you can see that. Okay, now switch over to the uniforms down on the third row here. You can see I mentioned, yeah. This is in 1939, 20,000 American Nazis descended. I mean, they're actually wearing the costumes at that time. Take that Washington Post one right there. Yeah. This is the image when I mentioned that Jewish guy, I think from Queens. stormed the stage. Just to give you a sense of what was going on in 1939. Now, you have to remember that same place, 25 years, 26 years earlier, there was a rally there of KKK members. Filled Madison Square Garden. This is at a time where you had 6 million card-carrying members of the KKK. The numbers were probably a little bit greater. There's only 100 million Americans at the time. 6% of the country, out-and-out KKK members. 20 years later, we got the Nazis there. And then the next America First rally takes place in Madison Square Garden. 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, I guess, 75 years later, or more or less.
It's 85.
85. Yesterday. Sorry. I knew it was like something that ended with 5. 29 speakers yesterday. And people are focusing on this one guy. I didn't know he was a comedian when I first saw this. And there's a reason for it, because he looks like he's just giving a speech here. It's not like he's doing stand-up. And then, like, this guy did a series of racist jokes. And I'm thinking, like, this is like that guy, Walter Matterson, right? That's Masterson, who goes and pretends to be a right winger and then, speaks at town council meetings,
city commission
meetings, and just like regurgitates what they say, but just says it like more explicitly. But no, this guy apparently was like vetted and picked to deliver this routine. And well, let's play the first clip. Is this the first one? This is Tony Henchcliffe speaking at the Trump rally in Madison Square Garden.
Believe it or not, people, I welcome migrants to the United States of America with open arms. And by open arms, I mean like this.
It's not welcoming, but
it's wild. And these Latinos, they love making babies too. Just know that. They do. They do. There's no pulling out. They don't do that. They come inside, just like they did to our country. Republicans are the party with a good sense of humor. Free speech is under attack, people. I host a show, and each week I get updates what words we're allowed to use and not use anymore. It's happening right now the past few years. It's a real thing.
Pause it for a second. Who does he host a show for that he gets this sheet? Why don't I get a sheet of paper like this?
Well, we subscribe to the woke mind virus, so we may not get that.
Actually, it's a sheet from Joe Rogan, and you can't say words like racist or...
Right.
Right.
Climate change. Right. We no longer use the word climate change.
Herd immunity.
Incidentally, we are just like a week or two out from Ron DeSantis literally trying to revoke the licenses of TV stations in Florida that ran a pro-choice ad. But the best part was because, believe it or not, folks, I welcome migrants, and they're all like, "What?" Continue. Are we still on this clip? Yeah.
Happening right now the past few years. It's a real thing. And, used to be able to tell people to Google stuff. My mom's a boomer in the state of Ohio, and there's no convincing her of anything. She's eating the cats. She's eating the dogs. They're eating the pets up there. It is absolutely wild times. It really, really is. And, there's a lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico. Okay. All right. Okay. We're getting there. Again.
Okay.
Let's just get to how far and wide the Puerto Rico comments have and will travel in a moment. But when I heard the first of this, and this is a series of racist jokes. They're jokes. They're also racist, right? Like, I don't know if Latinos in this country have more children than, say, Christian conservatives. My guess is it's pretty close. And also, we should also note that often those are two overlapping circles within a Venn diagram. But my guess is that fundamentalists produce a lot more children relative to, I don't know, non-fundamentalists. It is a racist joke. The premise is racist, that they have sex like animals and don't attempt to have birth control. That's what it is. It's a joke. It's a racist joke.
And he knows this. Apparently, they had to load all this stuff up onto the teleprompter previously.
Of course.
And that's the thing is where I just really do think that this was coordinated to evoke that Nazi rally from 85 years ago. It's like, you could just see Trump being enamored with the idea of selling out Madison Square Garden, just given his proclivities and given his obsession with New York real estate. Like, oh, that's the biggest place to sell out, Madison Square Garden. And a guy like Stephen Miller, who is in the orbit, basically saying this is a great idea. And him having his own, Trump probably being okay with the Nazi implications, right? Because we know what those comments have been about Hitler. And for the folks running the show in that campaign, these neo-Nazis, they're happy to signal that to their base. They're going all in on this.
I'm just fascinated by it. Now, I also was like, well, maybe the guy made fun of like white people too. Like, you know, I'm like Don Rickles. I make fun of everybody.
Right.
Oh, you're some type of wasp. You like, you know, like, and.
Well, he didn't make fun of white people. He did make fun of black people, Jewish people, and Palestinians.
All right. So. It's a spoiler alert. We're going to have to go through that. But he does not make fun of white people. The comedy is just focused on marginalized people in this, and it's all predicated on racist tropes. Now, I'm convinced, like you say, they knew what he was going to do. Mm-hmm. I'm convinced the idea was this is going to bait all the libs or all the non-racist people into complaining about it, and we're going to be able to do the old, we're joking. How come you people have no sense of humor? Now, for me, I find this really, really funny because they just shot themselves in the face in their campaign. There's a reason why Rick Scott, who else was it? What other?
Fetterman. I mean, not
Rick
Scott.
Rick Scott made a statement basically saying this was garbage and it's not true. Anthony D'Esposito, a Long Island congressman, was at this rally. He is of Puerto Rican descent and even criticized
the Trump campaign has had to distance themselves from this.
Yep.
They just didn't realize, like, oh, I mean, because listen, at the end of the day, they're just like, we're doing funny jokes about general things like Latinos and Puerto Ricans and the classic black jokes and the classic, you know, Jew jokes and Palestinian jokes we've thrown in there just to update it. And they apparently did not realize that that Puerto Ricans make up a significant portion of the population in a lot of these swing states,
particularly Pennsylvania.
Where is the? Didn't I send?
Pennsylvania has like.
Didn't I send you that tweet with the? No. Well, first off, yeah, show that right here. You have Bad Bunny and Ricky Martin. I don't follow them.
But Bad Bunny is Puerto Rican himself, and he's a massive musical artist right now.
And they are they are letting Puerto Ricans know about this. Pennsylvania, 450,000 Puerto Ricans in Pennsylvania. Yeah. North Carolina, 100,000. Wisconsin, 65,000. Michigan, 50,000. Florida, 1.1 million. New York, 1 million. Oh, in Texas, 230,000 in Texas, 100,000 in Georgia. Now, I don't know if I would imagine Harris is already doing better with Puerto Ricans than Trump. Maybe I by what margin, I have no idea. But when you're talking about a state like Pennsylvania that, 40,000 votes was the swing difference. When you're talking about Wisconsin, where, 10,000 votes swing difference over the past couple of elections. Michigan, same situation. God, who knows in Texas for all red. How many votes do you need to switch? Like, that can't be what they were planning.
No.
They were not sitting back at the convention going like, here's the plan. We got to fill in the middle. But we start here at the convention and we end with J.D. Vance trying to justify why Trump called for the military to attack Americans. And we'll have somebody at our big Bund rally basically crapping on Puerto Ricans. But wait, it doesn't end there, folks. Here is that same guy. What's his name?
Tony Hinchcliffe.
Hinchcliffe.
Straight out of the mothership. He's one of the last remaining truth-telling comics. I've heard this from Joe Rogan.
Go check out the Elephant Graveyard YouTube channel for a takedown of all these losers. He bookended his set with one, a "My Pillow is a great pillow" joke, and he ended it with a "Elon is a genius who can do rocket science" joke. So.
Oh.
Let's be clear. Like, how does this guy get there? Well, we can talk about this, but if he's in that Joe Rogan orbit, somebody in the campaign said to Rogan, we want a comedian. And this was the one that was chosen. Like this, these choices are indicative of who their go-to people are. Here's Hinchcliffe, and I don't know, did this guy freelance this? Like, did he just improv this based upon what he saw in front of him? Or did he actually have to write this joke down to come up with it?
All right, heck yeah, it's a cool black guy with a thing on his head. What the hell is that, a lampshade? Look at this guy.
Pause it for a second.
My goodness.
Is he really a comedian? I mean, I know, like, people have, I've asked people, but, like, this is why I thought this was a put on. Like, this is...
He's a comedian in an ecosystem that's entirely sort of cultivated by Joe Rogan.
Right.
But it's just fascinating to me because the whole, like, his crowd work. And on one hand, I'll be like, okay, I'm nervous. I'm a little constrained. But it's not like he's watching, being careful with his words. Like nobody must have said to him, like, hey, just be careful. Don't get too racist or anything like that. Here we go.
Next to
Is
an
one.
ivermectin.
All right, heck yeah, it's a cool black guy with a thing on his head. What the hell is that, a lampshade? Look at this guy.
Good stuff.
Oh my goodness. Wow. I'm just kidding. That's one of my buddies. He had a Halloween party last night. We had fun. We carved watermelons together. It was awesome. You guys this is a groany little morning crowd, huh? It's tough to follow this audition.
Wait, we let him go. Let him go here.
It's a groany little morning crowd, huh? It's tough to follow this audition for the next Commissioner Gordon's over here. It is, though. It's crazy times we're living in.
All right, pause it. The groan. When you've got a arena full of racists who groan at your joke that black people like watermelon. Like, I mean, this is... It's both obviously blatant racism, but it's also so unsophisticated.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's so...
Well, speaking of sophisticated, Commissioner Gordon is a Batman reference.
I know. I mean...
Okay. I'm not, like... the hackiness of this guy's comedy is completely secondary to his racism, but the combination of the hacky racism is also fascinating to me. He talks about his boomer mom. Dude, who do you think came up with this comedy about watermelons and black people? Yeah. Like, this is the most boomer, maybe greatest generation, or maybe we're just going back to, like, you know, Reconstruction times. But this stuff is, did you really just make a watermelon, black people like watermelon joke?
Yeah. I mean, you can just go back and listen to what George Carlin had to say about how good comedy picks on people in power, not people who are LGBTQ or immigrants or black people. This is the antithesis of that. And he's very proud about it because the comedy is secondary to the racist screed. And then they get to say that they're the only ones telling the truth. You're the one that thinks that's the truth. And I really do think they're in this bubble here. There's very little sense of, like, the right-wing media ecosystem is so insulated. They're all congratulating each other. They all think that triggering the libs is both, like, the end and the means. And I don't know if they have a broader strategy other than that. I really do think I'm sure he's going to get some sort of big podcast interview about how he was the most canceled comedian of all time at this point because of because of all the lib freak out about this. And he'll get, you know, a podcast or something like that.
Well, he already has a podcast, right? Or is that what it is?
Yeah, he's got a big show called Kill Tony, I guess, where they have comedians on all the time. I've seen it, but only made fun of on a YouTube channel called The Elephant Graveyard, where, I don't think it's very impressive. Some people seem to think it has some redeeming qualities. I think all these guys are, like, basically AstroTurf, Joe Rogan, like, sort of leeches. And yeah.
And he performed at the roast for Tom Brady that was put on by Netflix. So I think, honestly, to your point, Sam, probably similar thing. Like, we need to fill out a roster with comedians for something like a Tom Brady roast. Put Tony Hinchcliffe on.
Well, and I'm convinced that's why Rogan reversed and had Trump on, because Trump went on Theo Von, and he's going on these other, like, Rogan is not the only truth-telling white guy, racist adjacent, you know, conspiracy theorist comic anymore. Or podcast, I should say.
All right. And just to round it out, because, yeah, I mean, it is easy to pick out one thing and say, this guy's racist against Latinos, or he is anti-Puerto Rican, or he hates black people. This guy is a equal opportunity critic. It's very easy just to have this myopia, like, oh, you're just pointing out the ones that he did about black people and about Latinos. And not the fact that he's like a equal opportunity roaster, as it were. Because here he's also attacking Jews and Palestinians.
Oh.
Ukraine versus Russia, Israel, it's like bad soccer games. Who even cares? What are we doing? Why is our money involved in these wars? When it comes to Israel and Palestine,
pause it for 1 second. I just want to, like, was that a joke? Why is our money involved in these wars? Like, I'm unclear which part of this is the joke part and which part is this comedy part.
It's funny because it's true.
I mean, like, this is the thing. They're going to roll out this defense. And I just think it's obviously, it's like already sort of like dead on arrival. But, like, he's joking. What part of comedy do you not understand?
You can tell what the joke is when it's racist.
Just a bunch of right-wingers laughing at Puerto Rican jokes.
Exactly.
The non-racist parts are serious. The racist parts are jokes.
Exactly.
When it comes to Israel and Palestine, we're all thinking the same thing. Settle your stuff already. Best out of 3. Rock, paper, scissors. You know the Palestinians are going to throw rock every time. But you also know the Jews have a hard time throwing that paper. You know what I'm saying? All right, we're having fun now. We're cooking.
So the Palestinians throw rocks, and the Jews are not going to let go of their money. Is that what's going on there? All right. Well, look, it's easy, again, to cherry pick just the parts where he's racist against people who are subject to racism or other sort of attacks. Play the part where he really nails like all the white people from Long Island. Oh. All right. Okay. I guess that we did not.
But check out the first joke where he's like, "My pillows are great pillows."
Yes.
And also the last joke where he's like, "Democrats can't parallel park their cars, but Elon can parallel park rockets." So I like that guy who probably have a financial relationship with somewhere.
Sure.
Oh, Musk, I'm sure, is down in the mothership green room all the time.
Can I read a joke for you?
You could have my
take your cock out.
Take the cock out. You could do a joke about how where's the chickens? Don't be such a chicken. Here's my cock.
I was thinking it'd be really funny if you looked at your penis and said, "There's a cock in there." It was a chicken.
The idea, the saddest, so much was left on the table when they stopped calling Republicans weird. I mean, honestly, I'm sorry. And this guy is going to have an entire career now that is going to be based upon how he was canceled after giving this comedy bit. And even if you take it on the terms that they want it, this is comedy. Dude, all of your premises for half of your jokes were racist. Racist premises. Okay, you can do comedy and not be racist. That can happen. The other thing is that this guy would not go to his I don't know, a funeral for his mom, let's say, and do a roast. Right? You can do a roast when you're on the dais and it's the roast of, Tom Brady.
Right.
And it makes sense to do a roast there. But when you're in the middle of a campaign and you're doing racist jokes that you think, when I did this at the Comedy Cellar, it was cool. People took it in the spirit that it was meant to be in. I'm sorry. Context matters. Context matters. And that's the most generous thing I could put. That's the level of generosity to say, this is just about context is certainly more than this guy deserves or any of them deserve. But even if I was, it would still be how could you possibly not get how this is not appropriate? How could you possibly not get that this is going to be weaponized against you in a political campaign, unless you and the people who booked you and signed off on your material thought this is going to help us? I mean, you would have to be the world's biggest moron to think I'm just doing this to have fun. I'm supposed to lighten up the mood at the big Bund rally. And so I just happen to pick racist jokes. And they okayed them. I think it is one thing to be in a bubble where you think we're not going to get any a backlash against this. But it's just impossible for me to imagine that's what they thought. They just thought, maybe they miscalculated, maybe they didn't, that this is going to resonate with our people. This is going to trigger the libs. Yeah, it comes at the expense of increasing racism, but it's, this is going to help us.
We make that trade-off all the time.
100%. 100%. I mean, amazing.
Yeah.
really impressive. I mean, really, really impressive. Let's just let's play one more clip from this before we go.
I mean, Giuliani is pretty in keeping with what we just.
Yeah, here's
talked about.
yeah. I mean, here's Giuliani.
Hope he was paid for this.
Oh my God.
He was paid in booze.
I mean, if it was in cash, it came in and went straight out.
Yeah.
Do we know what time he made it to? What time Giuliani went on? Because I will again. I reiterate. Rudy Giuliani just had a court ruling last week that basically said you got 7 days. So I wonder when that's coming up. I feel like maybe Monday or Tuesday, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday of this week. 7 days to deliver all of your stuff. All of your stuff. All of it. The 26 watches.
Yeah.
The one that your grandfather gave you. All of it.
Doesn't he have like an incredible
Except for the Yankees
Babe Ruth, or was a Yankees?
He has a Yankees ring, a World Series ring that he gave to his son, supposedly, and the judge is looking into that, whether it was an actual real transfer to his son.
Right.
But everything else, a Mercedes owned by Lauren Bacall, all of it has to be delivered to these two two poll workers. And so I say, good for Giuliani for actually being sober enough to hit the stage at whatever time it was.
Worked for Ronald Reagan for 8 years. Ronald Reagan said, we have to be there for Israel always because they are always there for us.
Pause it.
Oh, really?
Google for a second, Bradley. Can you Google Ronald Reagan, Begin, Lebanon? Can we do that?
Google the USS Liberty. Always there for us.
I think what you'll find is the story of Ronald Reagan basically calling Menachem Begin and saying, dude, we're done now.
I think he said, like, this is a Holocaust.
We're done now. And roll this up. Do you have it? Here it is. August 13th, 1982. Reagan demands an end to attack in a blunt telephone call to Begin. And it worked. All right, but let's. Rudy Giuliani doesn't have Google. He doesn't have a computer anymore, probably. Go ahead.
Ronald Reagan said, we have to be there for Israel always because they are always there for us. Hamas is not there for us. Iran is not there for us. They want to kill us. And the Palestinians are taught to kill us at 2 years old. They won't let a Palestinian in Jordan. They won't let a Palestinian in Egypt. And Harris wants to bring them to you.
What?
They may have good people. I'm sorry I don't take a risk with people that are taught to kill Americans at 2. I'm on the side of Israel. You're on the side of Israel. Donald Trump's on the side of Israel. And they're on the side of the terrorists.
Israel?
They're on the side of Israel. Yeah, terrorists.
I think we might know who's
9/11.
I think we know who's paying for his legal bills now.
Yeah, exactly.
They're for me. I mean,
let's see how well Rudy does. And it's
I'm surprised he made it this far, honestly. After the hair melting in the landscaping parking lot. For him
you'd
to still
think
be
at
with
one
us.
point, like it really does show, like as long as you are, I mean, I think there
Nevertheless,
is-
he persisted.
I think there's got to be some type of subliminal message to all of like Trump's followers in this sort of like middle management level. Debase yourself And as long as you come home to daddy,
Yep.
you will always have a place at the table.
He gets off on that. Like Trump gets off on, and that's why he thinks, apparently internally, they think J.D. Vance is doing a great job defending Trump. That's what the reporting has been.
Remember the Mitt Romney photo? After he became
exactly
president?
right. He loves being able to break somebody down, have them be at their lowest, and come crawling back to him. And that's why Rudy Giuliani is still around. If it wasn't such a legal liability, Sidney Powell would still be around. Like, I mean, that's what he likes. That's what he likes. That's when he talks about why he wishes that he had Hitler's generals. He fantasizes
These
about
goddamn morons.
absolute fealty. I will say, I saw The Apprentice over the weekend. If people want to see it before the election, it was phenomenal. Not the show,
I thought you were
the
talking
movie.
about the TV show.
About Roy Cohn and his relationship with Donald Trump. And
The director Palestinian? Did I
this
get
director's
that right?
Iranian.
Iranian,
and
right.
he's spoken about like how it gave him an outside perspective. It's a great movie, and I do think that you can see the through line between Roy Cohn's politics, of course, his role in the execution of the Rosenbergs, and with Joe McCarthy and the Red Scare, into Donald Trump's politics today. Trump wasn't explicitly political during that time period when Cohn was mentoring him, but he clearly took many lessons. And I think the enemy from within, those comments, make total sense when you think about the way that Trump views what his role should be if he gets back into power. And it's a really scary vision that includes one that the Red Scare, I think, amplified.
Joe Corgi says, what's the American body count for Israelis versus Palestinians? I mean, I think just off the top of my head, more Americans have been killed by either Israeli bombs or snipers than from Palestinians. At least in the past couple of months. Or past year, I should say. All right. We're going to take a break, head into the fun half. Tomorrow on the program, we have somebody who's going to be talking about Opus Dei. Speaking of J.D. Vance, they've written a book on Opus Dei, which has gotten a surprisingly, like, the Opus Dei element of this has been overshadowed. But to be fair, it wasn't until after Mike Pence became vice president that we started to realize oh, this guy is this full-on theocrat and the most powerful theocrat. I figured we would get a week out. We would get a little bit ahead of this. That element of our politics is not going to go away. But so over the next week, we'll be doing this. We'll find a day to do maybe some hopium. Hopefully not copium. I'm learning
I
all
hate
the
both of those terms.
I hope it's poggers, whatever.
I've heard the word copium and hopium or whatever it is enough. I think for my life on the internet.
It'll end after the election. Then it'll just be like freakoutium or we'll see. Again, your support makes this show possible. You can become a member. Join themajorityreport.com. Keep your eye out. There's a couple of people who I know I've seen peripherally on Twitter who have said that they have tickets to the show. They can't make it. My suggestion to everybody, if you're looking for tickets, go to the Discord. If you've got tickets, go to the Discord. That's sort of like the parking lot out in front of the Grateful Dead show. If you need a miracle, head to the Discord. Don't forget, you can support the show. Join themajorityreport.com and justcoffee.coop. Fair trade coffee, hot chocolate. Use the coupon code majority, get 10% off. Emma, ESVN.
ESPN, we will be recapping, obviously, what happened in the NFL this weekend. There were some politics involved as well. We'll get into that, but yeah. I will all of week 8, youtube.com/ESPN show today.
Matt.
On Left Reckoning on yesterday, David and I talked about Elon Musk and basically started an Elon Musk death pool because we think he might destroy democracy or die trying. Also, Tulsi Gabbard announced she was a Republican in the sort of Groundhog Day-like series of announcements that she makes about her politics every couple of months. So check that out, patreon.com/leftreckoning.
Folks, see you in the fun half.
You are in for it.
All right, folks, 646-257-3920. See you in the fun half.
Are you ready?
Who sent us
this? Alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just as delicious as you could imagine.
The alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just want to degrade the white man.
Alpha males are back.
I take all of it to my throat.
Alpha males are back.
Snowflake says what?
The alpha males are back.
You are a madman.
And the alpha males are back.
Oh no, Sam Seder! What a fucking nightmare!
Bring back DJ Danner.
Yeah, or a couple of them. Just put them in rotation.
DJ Danner.
Well, the problem with those is they're like 45 seconds long, so I don't know if they're enough of a break.
That's fucking nonsense. You see white people doing drugs that look worse than normal white people, and all white people look disgusting.
And the alpha males.
Psych. Fuck them. Snowflake says what?
What?
Snowflake says what?
A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. Okay, I'm making stupid money. Hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank.
All lives matter. Have you tried doing an impression on a college campus?
I think that there's no reason why reasonable people across the divide can't all agree with this. Psych.
And the alpha males are back. And the Africans are black African. And the alpha males are black. And the Africans are back.